grows in all 50 states, requiring no fertilizer, no pesticides, no special care. For 10,000 years, humans used it to make rope, fabric, paper, and medicine. George Washington grew it. Thomas Jefferson grew it. The Declaration of Independence was drafted on paper made from it. Then, in 1937, it became the most illegal plant in America, not because it was dangerous, but because it was too useful. I'm Frank Miller, and the plant is cannabis sativa, but we're not talking about what you think. We're talking about industrial hemp. Same species, different variety, zero intoxicating effects. Subscribe right now because what you're about to learn is the story of how an industry convinced the government to criminalize its biggest competitor and how that plant refuses to disappear despite 87 years of prohibition. In 1935, Popular Mechanics called hemp the new billion-dollar crop, detailing how new processing machines could finally harvest hemp efficiently at scale. Hemp fiber is stronger than cotton, more durable than synthetic fabrics. 1 acre of hemp produces as much paper as 4 acres of trees. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me if you've seen wild hemp growing where you live. I want to know who recognizes this plant. By the end of this breakdown, you'll understand exactly what hemp threatened that made it illegal, why millions of wild hemp plants still grow across America despite eradication efforts, and how everything you were told about this plant was a lie designed to protect industrial profits. In 1935, Popular Mechanics called hemp the new billion-dollar crop, detailing how new processing machines could finally harvest hemp efficiently at scale. Hemp fiber is stronger than cotton, more durable than synthetic fabrics. 1 acre of hemp produces as much paper as 4 acres of trees. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me if you've seen wild hemp growing where you live. I want to know who recognizes this plant. By the end of this breakdown, you'll understand exactly what hemp threatened that made it illegal, why millions of wild hemp plants still grow across America despite eradication efforts, and how everything you were told about this plant was a lie designed to protect industrial profits. Understanding what hemp threatened reveals why 3 powerful industries needed it criminalized. In 1937, 3 entities saw hemp as an existential threat to their business models. The DuPont Company had just patented nylon, a synthetic fiber meant to replace natural textiles. DuPont's annual report stated that revenue from synthetic fabrics would be their primary growth sector. Hemp fabric was cheaper and stronger than nylon. If hemp remained legal and scalable, nylon had no market. DuPont also patented a new process for making paper from wood pulp using sulfuric acid after investing millions. Hemp paper required no acids, no complex chemistry, just the plant. William Randolph Hearst owned the largest newspaper empire in America and vast timber holdings for paper production. Cheap hemp paper would destroy his timber investments, so Hearst's newspapers had been running anti-cannabis propaganda for years, not for public health, but for profit protection. Andrew Mellon was Secretary of the Treasury and DuPont's primary banker. His bank had financed DuPont's synthetic fiber expansion. Mellon appointed his nephew, Harry Anslinger, to head the newly formed Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Anslinger needed a mission to justify his department's budget. Mellon suggested cannabis. What followed was one of history's most successful propaganda campaigns. Anslinger claimed cannabis caused insanity, violence, murder. He collected anecdotal stories, many fabricated, and presented them as scientific evidence. Hearst's newspapers amplified every claim. They used the Mexican-Spanish term marijuana instead of cannabis or hemp to make it sound foreign and dangerous during a period of anti-Mexican sentiment. The American Medical Association opposed the Marijuana Tax Act, testifying that cannabis had legitimate medical uses and that the proposed law was unnecessary. They were ignored. Hemp farmers protested that the law would destroy their industry over confusion with a different variety of the same plant. They were ignored. In 1937, Congress passed the act with minimal debate. Most representatives didn't realize they were criminalizing hemp because the word hemp barely appeared in the legislation, only marijuana. Overnight, an entire industry collapsed. Hemp farms shut down, processing facilities closed, knowledge disappeared. By 1945, hemp cultivation in America had nearly ended, but the plant itself never left, despite prohibition. Cannabis sativa is native to Central Asia but has naturalized across North America over thousands of years. Indigenous peoples used it long before European contact. Despite 87 years of prohibition and billions spent on eradication, hemp still grows wild in every continental state. In the Midwest, it's called ditchweed. Millions of wild hemp plants grow along roadsides and in fields near old processing sites. Law enforcement spends millions cutting it down every year. It grows back. In Nebraska alone, officials estimate 12 million wild hemp plants. Kansas, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana all report massive wild populations. These plants contain virtually no THC, the intoxicating compound. They are industrial hemp, but they remained illegal to harvest under federal law until 2018. Understanding what wild hemp offers reveals what was deliberately suppressed. The seeds contain all 9 essential amino acids, providing a complete protein profile superior to soybeans. Hemp seeds are 30% oil by weight, and that oil contains an optimal 3-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids, the exact ratio nutritionists recommend. Hemp seed oil also contains gamma-linolenic acid, a rare omega-6 fatty acid with anti-inflammatory properties. Most people are deficient in it. It's typically only found in evening primrose oil and borage oil, both expensive supplements. 100 grams of hemp seeds provide 9 grams of protein, 12 grams of healthy fats, significant amounts of vitamin E, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, iron, zinc, and are rich in manganese and B vitamins. The seeds can be eaten raw, ground into flour, or pressed for oil. Indigenous peoples made them into porridge. Pioneer settlers fed them to chickens for superior eggs. But the nutrition is only part of the story that was buried. Hemp fiber is extraordinarily strong, with tensile strength greater than steel by weight. Early sailing ships used hemp rope because it resisted saltwater rot. The British Navy required enormous quantities, as did every navy. Much of the colonial expansion era ran on hemp rope. Hemp fabric is naturally antimicrobial, resists mold and UV degradation. Clothing made from hemp lasts years longer than cotton. It softens with each wash while cotton weakens. Hemp also builds soil instead of depleting it. The plant's deep taproot breaks up compacted soil and prevents erosion. When hemp is grown and tilled back into soil, it returns nutrients and organic matter. Farmers historically used hemp as a rotation crop to restore fields exhausted by other crops. It requires no herbicides because the plants grow so dense and fast they choke out competing weeds naturally. Hemp can also remediate contaminated soil through phytoremediation. The plant absorbs heavy metals, pesticides, and other toxins from soil and stores them in its tissues. After the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, researchers planted hemp near the site. The plants absorbed radioactive cesium and strontium from the soil. In Italy, hemp has been used to clean soil contaminated by industrial pollution. The medical suppression reveals how pharmaceutical profits shaped cannabis prohibition. For thousands of years, cannabis was listed in medical texts across cultures. In ancient China, medical writings from 2800 BCE described cannabis for pain, inflammation, and digestive issues. Indian Ayurvedic medicine used cannabis for anxiety, insomnia, and appetite stimulation. In ancient Greece, physicians prescribed cannabis for inflammation and earaches. In 1850, cannabis entered the United States Pharmacopoeia, the official compendium of recognized medicines, remaining there until 1942. Pharmaceutical companies sold cannabis tinctures for migraines, muscle spasms, menstrual cramps, insomnia, and anxiety. Eli Lilly, Park Davis, and Squibb all manufactured cannabis medicines that doctors prescribed routinely. Then came the propaganda coordinated by Anslinger's Federal Bureau of Narcotics claiming cannabis had no medical value. This contradicted decades of medical literature and current prescribing practices, but the narrative stuck. By the time the Controlled Substances Act passed in 1970, cannabis was classified as Schedule I, defined as having no accepted medical use and high potential for abuse. This classification placed cannabis alongside heroin. Meanwhile, cocaine and methamphetamines were classified as Schedule II, meaning they had accepted medical uses. The classification was political, not scientific. President Nixon's own commission, the Schaefer Commission, recommended decriminalizing cannabis in 1972 after studying its effects extensively. Nixon ignored the recommendation. Years later, Nixon aide John Ehrlichman admitted the drug war targeted political enemies, stating the Nixon administration couldn't make it illegal to be anti-war or black, but by associating hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, they could disrupt those communities and arrest leaders. While America criminalized hemp, other countries continued cultivating it. China never stopped. Today, China produces over half the world's hemp fiber. France, Romania, and the Netherlands maintained hemp industries throughout Prohibition. Canadian farmers began growing hemp again in 1998 after decades of Prohibition. By the time America reconsidered, it had lost 80 years of agricultural development, processing infrastructure, and market knowledge. In 2014, the Farm Bill allowed limited hemp cultivation for research purposes. In 2018, the Farm Bill fully legalized industrial hemp, defined as cannabis containing less than 0.3% THC. After 81 years, hemp was legal again, but farmers rushed to plant only to discover the infrastructure was gone. America had no processing facilities, no seed varieties optimized for local climates, no equipment manufacturers, no trained workforce. We had to import everything we had spent a century perfecting before 1937. Understanding hemp's current potential reveals what remains suppressed despite legalization. Hemp fiber can replace fiberglass in car panels. BMW and other manufacturers already use hemp composites in vehicle interiors. Hemp fiberboard is stronger and lighter than wood. Hemp insulation outperforms fiberglass without the health hazards. Hemp plastic is biodegradable, while conventional plastic comes from petroleum and persists for centuries. Hemp plastic breaks down naturally and can be molded into any form petroleum plastic takes. Henry Ford built a car in 1941 with hemp composite panels, demonstrating its strength by hitting the panel with a sledgehammer with no damage. That car ran on hemp ethanol fuel. Hempcrete is a building material made from hemp herds, the woody core of the stalk mixed with lime. It's fireproof, mold-resistant, pest-resistant, and carbon-negative. The material actually absorbs more carbon dioxide during its life cycle than was emitted in its production. Buildings made with hempcrete regulate temperature naturally, reducing heating and cooling costs. Europeans have built with hempcrete for decades, while America is just beginning. Hemp can also replace cotton in textiles, with far less environmental impact. Cotton is the world's dirtiest crop, using 25% of global pesticides despite occupying only 3% of farmland. Cotton depletes soil and requires enormous water. One cotton t-shirt requires 2,700 liters of water to produce. Hemp requires half the water, no pesticides, and builds soil health. A hemp t-shirt is stronger, lasts longer, and has no environmental guilt attached. But despite legalization and obvious benefits, hemp struggles to scale in America. The industries that killed it in 1937 still exist and don't need to make hemp illegal anymore. They just need to make it difficult through complicated regulations, banking restrictions since hemp is still associated with cannabis, no crop insurance, limited processing infrastructure, no government subsidies like corn and soy receive. The market exists, the demand exists, but the system is designed to keep hemp marginal. Meanwhile, the plant keeps growing wild. Millions of hemp plants across America, free, useful, ignored. Drive through Nebraska and you'll see it along highways. Kansas backroads are covered in hemp. These plants could feed people, clothe them, house them, heal them. Instead, they're cut down as weeds or left to grow wild and unused. Everything you were told about this plant was a lie designed to protect industrial profits. Hemp doesn't cause violence, it causes competition. It doesn't threaten public health, it threatens market share. For 87 years, it was illegal to grow a plant that could replace petroleum plastic, cotton fabric, wood paper, and dozens of pharmaceutical products. If this breakdown revealed how hemp was criminalized to protect corporate profits, share this with someone who needs to understand why the most useful plant in history became illegal. Drop a comment telling me if you're going to support hemp farmers or buy hemp products. I want to know who's weakening the industries that spent a century suppressing this plant. The suppression worked so well that most people today don't know hemp and marijuana are the same species. They don't know their grandparents used hemp products daily. They don't know the Declaration of Independence was written on hemp paper, or that Levi Strauss made the first blue jeans from hemp canvas. The word canvas comes from cannabis. This knowledge was erased deliberately, because when you erase knowledge, you erase power, and when you erase power, you control markets. But the plant refuses to disappear. It grows in ditches, survives eradication, waits for people to remember. I'm Frank Miller, and understanding hemp's suppression reveals how corporate interests shaped prohibition for profit protection, not public safety. The plant that threatened billion-dollar industries in 1937 still threatens them today, which is why, despite legalization, hemp remains marginalized through regulations designed to prevent competition. Learn to identify hemp, understand its uses, support hemp farmers, buy hemp products, choose hemp fabric over cotton, choose hemp paper, choose hemp building materials. Every purchase shifts the market and weakens the industries that spent a century burying this plant. Teach others, share this information, correct the confusion they deliberately created. The propaganda was so effective, people still believe lies from 1937, still think hemp is dangerous, still confuse industrial fiber with intoxication. Spread the knowledge they tried to bury.